The clothing and textile industry remains a labor-intensive area whereby we're seeing through the inspections by the Department of Labour concerns raised about most of these areas where there are no unions in place and most of these companies just pushing the element of flouting, which is a cause for concern where these officials here are concerned. They've raised issues with the violation of the labour laws in the country, most of them just moving from one area to the next, picking up huge issues around the violation of these compliances and some of these violations just leading even to issues around occupational health and safety for the workers that are occupying some of these premises. I'm going to bring into the conversation now Mr. Mthembu, who's joining us from the Clothing Bargaining Council, who'll just let us in on what they've been picking up. I mean, this company that we are at as we speak right now, known as Zongo, later on it has changed its name as well. We're hearing that inspectors were here in June and now it's a different name altogether, but the operators and the management is still the same. Maybe let us in on Israel, your role here as the Bargaining Council, moving with the Department of Labour and Home Affairs and the officials here.
Thank you, Sam. Our main function as a Clothing Bargaining Council, we deal with the enforcement in terms of our clothing collective bargaining agreement, which deals with the issues in the industry. But what we have picked up in the clothing industry, it's clothing industry in these areas of Isitebe, Newcastle and other areas as well. It has been bloated up by cooperative companies that are fronting up, using our poor employees that are mothers, that are supporting their families. But when we look at the CIPRO documents, and we find their names that are appearing on the CIPRO documents, but when we interview these workers, they don't know anything about this thing. They don't even earn any share dividends in terms of being directors in terms of these companies. And in this particular company that we are in, this is one of the companies that has been giving us uphill battle in terms of access, because they believe and behave that they don't have to abide by any labor laws in terms of this country. That's why that I'm glad today that we've got so many departments that are going to assist us as a Clothing Bargaining Council to get access to these factories so that we can be able to deal with the enforcement in terms of our collective main agreement, because we are seen as if as a bargaining council we are failing in our duties, but it's because they are using this Cooperatives Act as a fronting in terms of abusing these poor workers in our clothing industry. Yeah. And
also when we look at it, Mr. Mthembu, we know very well that this is a bargaining council that would ensure that there's at least the adherence of the 27 rand in terms of the national minimum wage. The workers here are saying they're earning as little as 5 rand, others earning as little as 10 rand, 8 rand and the likes. And even when you get that money and you really calculate it, it doesn't lead up to the national minimum wage. How does that make you feel?
It's so bad. It's so bad. Because even if you look at the national minimum wage, the minimum wage currently is sitting at 25 rand 42 cents a week. These workers here, they're earning far less, not even 10% of that, far below. Taking into account that the clothing industry in the Republic of South Africa, it's a labor-intensive industry. It contributed to our GDP economy of the country. If I can just say maybe close to 10%, because that's what's happening. We find people that are queuing by the gates, and before they can be given any jobs, they'll be told that forced to sign these cooperatives documents so that they can get an employment, not knowing as time goes on that they are being used as one of those workers, that they are not earning those shared dividends as one of the directors in these particular entities.
So what is going to happen, just briefly, to this company, because they are a repeat offender and we find that they're still not complying with issues of labor laws and just not meeting those standards that are needed in terms of the bargaining where your department is concerned?
Okay. What we have done as far as the Clothing Bargaining Council concerned, we've issued a compliance order compelling this company to register with the Clothing Bargaining Council as a company and register all its employees with the Clothing Bargaining Council, and also pay these workers the wages that is due to them as negotiated by the parties in the clothing industry. That's what the compliance order is entails, and all other statutory deductions that has been negotiated in the industry.